Hey YouTube. Alright, so I've been having a lot of questions. Even whenever I went to barbering school a while back, I used to adjust the clippers for a lot of the other students. So I've been getting quite a few questions as far as the proper way of adjusting your clippers, your blades, how to change out your blades, the proper way of lubricating them, washing them, doing the blade wash. So there's a lot of different techniques and strategies out there that different barbers use. I'm actually going to be teaching you the way that I personally use and the way that I like to keep my clippers clean. Because a lot of you know that your clippers as a barber is actually your way of life. Like, that is your money makers. Without your clippers and without your equipment working properly, you're not going to be able to make no money. So stay tuned. I'll be able to teach you exactly the proper way and the best way that I know as far as like washing your blades and adjusting them, and also how to change out the blades on a few clippers. All right, see you soon. Alright, so when you unbox the package, you're going to end up having two blades. You're going to have the actual guard blade, and then you're going to actually have the cutting blade. The way that these two work is basically it goes right on top of each other. This is the one that moves around. Alright, so this is how we're actually going to be taking this apart. We're going to be opening it up completely to be able to get into the inside, clean up all the hair that might be logged in there for a while. This is something good to be able to do at least once a month. I haven't done it and I'm not really sure how long, so we're gonna go ahead and take this apart. I'm using a small flathead to be able to get the cover taken off. Alright, and as you can see, this is full of hair inside of here, so this is something we're gonna go ahead and just take completely out. It's good to use a different brush, not the brush I use for your clients, but we're definitely going to use a different type of brush to be able to go ahead and get all this cleaned out. I'm going to go ahead and clean everything out here, and I'll be able to show you the next step. Alright, so we went ahead and got this completely cleaned out. As you can see, we ended up just brushing everything completely out of it. So we got it as clean as we could possibly get it without getting any type of chemicals or anything in there. You don't want to get this wet inside. This is all electrical stuff. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull apart the blades. For that, we're going to go ahead and use a medium-sized Phillips head. And we're going to take these two screws out right here. Alright. Now, just to be able to make sure everything's nice and organized, we're going to keep the two flat heads that go with the cover. We're going to keep those together. And the two Phillip heads that go with the blade, we're going to keep those with the blade. Now we're going to go ahead and pull the blade out. As you can see, this is all the hair and stuff that gets clogged inside of there, causing the clippers to sometimes get messed up. So we're going to go ahead and clean all this out as well. We're going to go ahead and pull the blade, the actual cutting blade off. You can just wiggle that out. You'll be able to see all the hair that's still stuck inside of there. So we're going to go ahead and get all this yucky stuff out, which is just a bunch of old hair. This is why it's good to keep your clippers always clean. This is, as a barber, this is going to be your life, working with these clippers. So you want to make sure you take care of them and not let them get as clogged as these. These are just an older set that I've been laying around for a while. Alright, so in order to be able to thoroughly clean this, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove the actual adjusting lever, this plate in the bottom, which is what moves the cutting blade. To be able to take this off, we're going to use a small Phillips head, and we're going to take apart these 4 screws right here, and then this plate will come off. Alright, so now that we removed that, we're going to go ahead and take our brush and we're going to go ahead and start cleaning everything out. Alright, so to be able to get everything put back together, what we're going to go ahead and do, this is going to be the new blade, the new guard, and then the actual adjusting lever piece. This is what helps the adjusting lever. So if you see in the back, you're going to have a little hole right here. on the top, you're gonna see that there's a little hole right here, and then next to it, you're gonna see there's a little metal piece. That little metal piece needs to go to the back of the clippers. So if you see this hole right here, you're gonna have this little piece right here. I don't know if you can see that very well, but this is what moves that lever back and forth right there. So that right there is gonna go inside of there. Make sure that that metal piece is pointing to the back of the clippers. You want to go ahead and get that lined up, and it should click right in. And then you're going to go ahead and line up where the holes are to get your 4 screws that go back in there. So let's go ahead and get those put back in there. You don't want to put those in too tight either, because this actually determines the tension that your lever is going to have. So if you want your lever a little bit stiffer, you can tighten these up a little bit more. If you don't want it too stiff, you can leave them a little bit more loose, but you don't want them too loose, because then you have the blades will be moving on you in the middle of you cutting hair. That's not something you want ever. It could actually damage somebody's fade if you're trying to pull the lever open a little bit and then it closes on you in the middle of you cutting hair. So once we get these 4 screws put back in, we'll be able to determine the tension that we like. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and tighten those 4 just pretty snug, not too tight, because once again, if you put them too tight, you're not going to be able to move the lever. So what you want right here is you want to go ahead and feel the lever right there. It's got a pretty good tension to what I personally like while I'm cutting hair. So it's actually not going to be too tight, it's not going to be too loose, it's perfect right there. So you want to play around with these 4 screws and just be able to get those to how you actually like them. Now remember, if they're too loose while you're cutting hair, the blade can move back on you while if these are too loose. So make sure they're tight to where you can actually feel a little bit of drag tension on this lever. Alright, so now that we have that set, we're going to go ahead and install the new blade. So the cutting blade is the one that has this little plastic piece on it. Remember, the actual blades go towards the outside, pointing towards the front of the clippers. So to be able to get those on, you're going to see these little notches right there. You see the little notches right there and right there. I don't know if you can see those little notches right there. It looks like little V's right inside of here. So you want to have those blades fall right inside of those notches, just like that. So there it goes. So it's clicked on. So now the cutting blade is on there. It shouldn't actually fall out at all. It should actually be clipped on pretty well. Now remember, these are the cutting blades, so you don't want this to maybe cut you, so try to be careful the way you're handling it. Now we're going to go ahead and put the actual guard on. So the new guard is basically going to go right on top, right here. And then we're going to go ahead and put our 2 screws back on. Now to be able to get these adjusted, you don't want to tighten them up all the way. You're going to tighten them up, but to where you can still move this plate around. That way we'll be able to adjust the actual blades to what we usually like. I personally don't like the completely zero gap because that can cut people. But what I like to do is I like to get them as close as possible to where they can pretty much get in between what the Slimlines or what the T-liners, what these would normally get. So if you actually start doing a fade with these, I like to get these close enough to where I can get this line out. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get these screws put back in. What we're going to go ahead and do is, as you can see, we have the blades. However, I can still move this one around. See? Alright, so now that we can move this one around, we're going to go ahead and try to zero gap these the best that we could. All right, now in order to be able to get these pretty much synced, what I like to do is I like to set all my blades visually. So what I tend to do is I kind of like line them up the best that I could sideways, just like this. And I try to look to see if the actual cutting blade sticks out a little bit further. Most people like to do it with a zero gapper, which is one of these. Let me go ahead and set these the closest that I can visually. And while you're doing this, you also want to make sure that this lever is completely closed. Open is far away, close is all the way the closest that you can get the blade. All right, and that looks pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and get my screwdriver. I'm gonna hold that blade right there. We're gonna go ahead and tighten this up. Now we'll go ahead and tighten up these last 2 screws. Go ahead and check that blade, make sure nothing is moved. It actually looks pretty good. If you see this from the side, you can actually see exactly how close the blades are, but not necessarily to where it's gonna cut you. You want these blades, which are the cutting blades, to be further back than the steel blade. So a good way to be able to test that is just rub your fingers right through it like that, going against the actual cutting blade, and you shouldn't feel anything snugging or anything like grabbing. If you do, you want to pretty much loosen them up and retry that again, because that could actually cut your client. So those actually feel pretty good right there. Alright, and then next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make sure that our lever is working. So we're going to go ahead and get our lever, open it up, close it up. You want to make sure everything's still working smooth with the same tension as we did earlier. And then that's pretty much all it takes to be able to have your blades are readjusted, which was a lot of people call it zero gap. I don't completely agree with complete zero because you can cut people. But this is definitely the closest you can get without actually cutting anyone. So now the blades are done, let's go ahead and get the top put back on. So now we have everything put back together, make sure the lever, everything has the tension, and you should be ready to go. Now in order to be able to set the actual tension, you have the adjusters right here on the side. So if you ever hear your clippers, once you turn them on, if you ever hear them buzzing, you can always turn these screws clockwise or counterclockwise to be able to tighten it up a little bit or loosen it up a little bit. Sometimes it just might be too tight to where the blades might not be even moving, or if it's too loose, you'll hear a rattling noise that is really loud and very obnoxious, which you don't want your clippers sounding like that, because sometimes your clients will probably think that your clippers are just messed up. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and plug these in now and make sure that everything works. All right, so now that we have everything put back together, we're gonna go ahead and turn them on just to make sure that everything is working properly. All right. So if you can probably hear, it has actually a high pitch little ringing to it. That's usually the sound you get when you get brand new blades, so that's actually running perfectly fine. We can always go ahead and just turn the adjusting knob. Be able to hear the sound that I was actually talking to you about earlier. So that sound right there is what I was telling you about, that most clients probably sound or think that your clippers are falling apart. It just sounds terrible because you're just basically loosening up the adjusting knob. So this knob right here is what you want to be able to adjust to be able to get rid of that sound. So if you see, I'm going to go ahead and turn it counterclockwise, and that noise is going to start. When you turn it clockwise, we're turning up the tension on it. So you don't want to have it too tense, because then your blades won't move. But that's actually the tension that you want right there, and this is the sound that you have whenever everything's adjusted. You want to be able to make sure that everything's working properly. While it's turned on, you want to open, close. All right. Now you don't want to have these on for too long because we haven't really oiled them yet or anything. But now that we have brand new blades, to be able to finish cleaning out everything else that's inside, now we're gonna go ahead and do the blade wash. All right, so the blade wash is pretty simple. What you wanna do is you wanna go ahead and just get your Andis blade wash. Now the description to everything we're using here, I'm gonna go ahead and put it on the links below. That way it'll send you to the Amazon link if it's something that you actually wanna go ahead and purchase as well. Now we don't want to do the actual cleaning inside of this bowl, so that's why we're going to go ahead and just put it inside of one of these mixing bowls. We're just going to put just a little bit in there. Doesn't have to be too much. Everything you put in there you're probably going to end up having to throw away anyway. You never want to put it back in and contaminate any of the other liquid that you already have. So we're going to go ahead and cover this up. And this is the same way you're going to be basically cleaning all your blades for any one of your clippers. You can always do it just like this. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and just turn it on. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and sink the blade parallel to the water. So you don't want to basically put the nose in, or just the nose. You want to go ahead and just put everything in evenly. It might splash around a little bit, so you want to hurry up and just get those in. And we're going to go ahead and just let the blade just keep soaking in there. It's going to be cleaning out everything all the hairs and everything that were still on the inside that we couldn't get with the brush. It'll start taking it out with this liquid. It works as an actual disinfectant, and also works as a lubricant, and it just cleans everything real well, helps prevent it from any type of corrosion or anything like that. Alright, so you want to hold it underneath the fluid for probably about like a good 10 seconds. Now it's probably been about 10-15. Now what you want to do is you want to go ahead and you want to take it out. You're able to see all the stuff coming off the clippers. I like to take it out sideways, make sure that everything just drains right out. Go ahead and open and close the lever. And with a nice clean towel, you want to go ahead and just remove the excess off of this. Alright, so now we have our clippers nice and clean. We have them adjusted, we have them ready to go, ready to be able to cut some hair. We're going to go ahead and oil up the blades. So I like to use the Andis clipper oil. Now this stuff actually works really good, and it's really not that expensive either. It just keeps the blades just lasting longer. So what we're going to do is I like to go ahead and just get these turned on. And what I do is I go ahead and put one drop of oil right in the middle, one on the outside, one on the other. And then I turn them, and I like to get it right inside of here. Just put a couple of drops of oil inside of there. Turn it, put it on the other side. Just put 2 or 3 drops, really doesn't have to be too much. Keep your clippers at an angle, and just keep them running. Good thing to do is to always go ahead and just open and close the lever while they're on. Just make sure to get everything lubricated on the inside. Alright, and that's pretty much it. So everything is ready to go. The clippers are completely cleaned already. As you know, the clippers are brand new. We just replaced them, but now we got everything nice and lubricated. And then the last thing that we like to do is, right before we cut anyone's hair, it's very important to always clean them up with a little bit of a cool care. So the last thing that we're going to do is go ahead and turn these on and spray right along the blades. Flip it, make sure you open and close, and you are basically ready to go. Make sure you clean these up really well. Now we have our Andis Masters with new blades ready to be able to cut hair.